Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. This is our first episode. This is Jorge Rios. And I've got with me today Melody Ochoa, who's going to help us about guiding us how to buy your first home. Melody, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, I'm Melody. Thank you, Jorge. I'm a mortgage link. I have spent many years in the mortgage industry helping first-time home buyers understand the process and learning that home ownership is possible with the right plan and the right team.
Yes, it is. The right realtor
Exactly.
and lender.
And lender.
Hey, Melody, so I got a first question for you. What is your favorite part about helping people to buy their first house?
My favorite part is turning that I don't know if I qualify into, wow, I actually qualified.
I bet. That's an exciting moment, conversation. Yeah. And okay, since you said I actually qualify. So what does it mean to qualify or to get pre-qualified? I always tell my customers, and they always tell us in real estate school, make sure your customer is pre-qualified before you start showing properties. Why is that? And how do you approach that?
Yes, so it is very important. We always say, now there is a difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved. So the pre-qualification is going to be an overview based off of just general information found. It's not a set approval. It's more of an estimate or a guesstimate of what you might be approved for. Now, pre-approval, we've already done our homework. We've reviewed your finances. We've reviewed your credit. We've reviewed your assets. And now we have a solid plan, and we know that basically you've gone through those first underwriting guidelines and everything to get you that pre-approved amount.
So first is the pre-qualification and then the pre-approval.
Exactly.
I know we've been working with a couple of customers and our clients, and I know it could be a little bit overwhelming at times. So what do you suggest to them during that process or that pre-qualification process first? Is that the two steps?
Yes. So why it could be overwhelming is sometimes we do ask for all of the documentation up front. We're going to ask for your pay stubs. We're going to ask for your social. We're going to ask for your bank statements. If you're using a 401k, we're going to need that statement. If you're self-employed, we might ask for tax returns. So it could be a little tedious front, but really it's to help you guys once you guys are in the process and actually searching for a home. You don't have to worry about, do I qualify for this home? You know your file has pretty much been underwritten and you're okay to go in with a strong offer, and you have that confidence now of saying, I know I am approved for this amount. It has all been reviewed and all the boxes have been checked. And now you can start that process to actually go in and search for the home, which is the hard part. So we always say it is a little overwhelming, but it's to take that overwhelming feeling from the back end,
right,
and get you to where you're actually able to shop in peace, knowing exactly what you can afford.
What you can charge for. I know that when I first got started, I think it was probably my first two customers or first two clients. We actually went to see properties, and they were up there at 500,000, 600,000, and they weren't pre-approved. So we spent maybe about a month shopping around, and they hadn't been pre-approved. When they finally ran their pre-approval or their pre-qualification, they weren't qualified yet. He was self-employed, so you try to take as many deductions as you can. And so that kind of affected him, but, he's still in the process, and we're working on that already. But yeah, that's, you go out shopping toward, something that's out of your budget, and that's why it's important to get pre-qualified, right?
Exactly. It helps with the heartbreak later.
Exactly. I know the wife was really excited about it. These, nice $600,000 homes. And
island kitchen.
Yes. Hey, so if a customer comes up and says, you know what, I want to buy a home, how do you determine if he's really ready to buy that property, or what do you recommend as the next step? You mentioned the pre-qualification, but how do you determine that if they are ready?
So the first step is to hear them out, to really see what their goals are, what their timeline looks like, what they're working with, see what their plan is for the future. That way we can position them into the best loan, because there are different loan options as well. It's not a one size fits all. So getting to know the client, getting to know what their plans are, their timeline and everything, it really does make a difference. So from there, from that initial consultation where we're getting to know the client, then we go ahead and get them to fill out the application. We review the documents based off of the application. That's when we'll decide what kind of documentation we're needing to verify. We'll go through that. And then at that point, that's when we actually review everything as a whole, make sure they do qualify, and then let them know what they're pre-approved for. And then we also help guide them. We go over the monthly payment. We go over the closing costs. We go over everything together so that they know exactly what it is that they're getting into.
Wow. Okay. And what's a sign that you see out there that usually tells you that they need to wait, even though they want, to do that process? But what's a sign that you say, you know what, this client should wait maybe 6 months or something, maybe a year?
Yeah. Once we review everything, we always take a look at their employment history, if it's stable, if they're in the process of switching jobs. It might be a good idea to hold off, because switching jobs in the middle of a pre-approval can definitely make or break the approval. So it is very important that you know exactly what you're getting into. And if you foresee that being something that's going to happen in the future, make sure you let your lender know. That way they can put you into a plan that works for you, and you're aware of exactly what it is that you'll need before you make those changes. If you don't have enough funds secured at the moment, or if your credit isn't up to par just yet, those are all signs that you might be emotionally ready, but not financially ready. And so we're going to help get you there. Once we review everything, we'll set up a game plan with you. We'll set up a timeline and make sure you are ready, and your offer is strong once you are ready to go.
Good. That I know that that helps a lot, because it helps us go through a lot of hurdles during the process. How does you mentioned changing jobs. So when there's a gap between jobs, does that affect it, or can they switch from one job to the next without any gaps? Is it the same thing, or does it vary?
It varies. It depends on a couple of things. If there is going to be a gap, we're going to want to know why. Why was there a gap? Did you go through some personal financial situations, family issues where you had to take the time off? We might ask for a letter of explanation. If you're just transitioning into a new role, but you're in the same industry, it might not affect you at all. It really depends on the situation. So we always say, either way, before you quit your job, before you start a new job, please let us know.
You got it. Even if they're getting a raise?
If they're getting a raise, that's always a good thing. But definitely still let us know, because you might be able to increase your purchase power as well.
Oh, okay, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't thought about that. All right. And how do you help people, let's say they're not ready to buy at the moment, how do you help people get ready during, let's say, if they have to wait 6 months or a year? How do you help them get ready for that? And reference to their financial planning, maybe some credit repair.
Exactly that. So we actually have a team of really great people and partners that we refer you out to, whether it's credit, whether it's financial planning. We can guide you in the right direction. We go over the numbers up front. That way you know exactly what it is that you need to get to where you're wanting to be. We run our own credit simulators, for example, if it is with credit. If it's something that we can help guide you ourselves, whether it's paying off a couple of collections, maybe paying off a couple of credit cards, we will put you on a plan with a timeline. And then we'll also be following up to make sure you're following through, to hold you accountable and make sure that you reach that ultimate goal of home ownership.
Cool. I was going to say something, but I was going to say child support. That's always a big one for all the guys out there.
And we definitely want to know about that, if you're paying it or if you're getting it, because it does make a difference.
Yes, it does. I've been through that before.
Yes.
So what are the biggest mistakes that you see people make during their process? This home purchasing process, the entire process.
These are the ones that I wish I had clean. Please don't go purchase a new car without telling your lender. Don't quit your job. Don't go make large purchases or open new credit cards. A lot of people tend to think, oh, well, I got pre-approved for a home. I can go buy my new truck now. But what we're not taking into account when we pre-approve you is that $900 payment for that new truck.
Right.
Nice. We know you want the truck, but you have to stick with the plan that we have, and we've already reviewed what we've reviewed. So anything that can change your credit profile, your income, your assets, it's best to either hold off or talk to your loan officer before making any big decisions as such.
I know a lot of times people think, well, I'm going to go buy a house. That's going to help me raise my credit score, not knowing that it usually affects them more. There's more debt to income ratio. But yeah, I've seen that a couple of times too. And what's your advice to our people viewing us? How to avoid those errors, or what do you recommend?
I always recommend having that constant communication and relationship with your lender. It is very, very, very important to work with a lender who's always in communication. That makes you feel comfortable. That way you are approaching them with those questions because it can hurt you so much more without asking that simple question, will this affect my approval? Because a lot of the times it will. So I say always, always, always communicate with your lender before making any large purchases, making any major changes that might impact your approval.
Cool. Also, we were talking earlier about, people seeing $500,000 homes, $600,000 homes, even more, but then sometimes they don't qualify. So how do you determine, let's say somebody gets pre-qualified for a $600,000 home. How do you determine if that's a healthy amount for them? Because they can be qualified for $600,000, but it's always the best thing to do, and depending on their finances. How do you determine that?
So we always let our clients know. We always want to know what actually feels comfortable as far as a monthly payment. Because right now you might qualify for that amount. However, you're not used to paying that amount. And that is maxing out pretty much all you have. So you need to take into account unforeseen home expenses. There's, unfortunately, when owning a home, there's other costs that you might not be aware of. So we always try to determine what feels comfortable. Like I tell my kids, just because you have $20 doesn't mean you have to go spend the $20, because then you're left with nothing. What if you see something else that you might like later? So the more you save, the better, because you're not in that hole where you feel like, now I'm giving you everything. And if there is those unforeseen circumstances that no one plans for or prepares for, it could really, really actually end up hurting our clients. So
car repairs,
exactly.
Even taxes sometimes, I think.
Even vacations.
Are
you taking into account your expenses for your, things that aren't on credit, So.
And what do you recommend? What do you recommend, for people to get ready if they want to do a purchase?
Create a budget. I say creating a budget, taking a look at your finances as a whole, seeing how much you actually spend, how much money you have left over, what actually feels comfortable for the down payment, what actually feels comfortable for the full closing costs, and do you have money left over? We also like to make sure you also have those reserves, is what we call it, which is those extra savings in case of an emergency, whether it's a health emergency, whether it's a family emergency, a car emergency. You want to make sure you still have those lump sum of savings put aside for those
like an emergency fund type.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And I know you work with several different types of programs. So how do you know which program to recommend to each client?
So it really depends on the client and their profile. because like I mentioned earlier, it's not a one size fits all. There
Mhm.
are different amazing programs for everybody. So it just depends on whether you have more debts, you have more income, you have great, excellent credit, or your credit needs a little bit of help. There's different programs to help everybody.
And do they get to decide, oh, this is the program I want, or do you recommend it, or is it kind of like a consultation kind of thing, and then you both decide?
So a lot of people already have an idea of what they're looking for, and we let
Okay.
them know, and we'll assess the situation if it's something that they can qualify for, and if they're really wanting to aim for a certain program, then we'll help them get there. We'll give them the tools. We'll let them know what it'll take to help them qualify for that specific program, and if they don't, then we'll walk them through that as well to help them understand why the other option is the better one for them.
Okay. This morning, you shared the down payment assistance program for first-time home buyers. I was reviewing that this morning. I actually spoke to one client about it, and hopefully that'll go through. I know he's going to be contacting you. So those are the type of programs that Melody works with, and I'm pretty excited about that one. I think that one's going to help a lot. Yeah.
I love them, and I love working with them. I communicate with them daily. It's TSHAT, actually,
TSHAT,
through
yeah.
the state of Texas.
So if you need down payment assistance, there's a program out there that Melody can help you with, and I can help you with as well.
Yeah.
One other thing, when people get started, what type of documents are the ones that you usually ask for?
So we're going to ask for your ID. We're going to ask for W-2s for the last 2 years if you were a W-2 employee. Pay stubs for the last 30 days. We're going to need bank statements for any funds you plan to use. If you have a 401k, we'll need to see that as well, because again, this is a pre-approval. We're wanting to make sure when your file gets to underwriting, it's going to stay as approved. We don't want to give you guys false hope, get you through the process, and then you no longer qualify. So we're going to review all of that. Now, if you're self-employed, we do ask for 2 years tax return. And if you're using down payment assistance, we will need 3 years tax returns.
So, hey, you mentioned the 401k a couple of times. Why is that? I mean, you can't really take the money out of your 401k. You get penalized. So why is that important? Is it like just to whine?
So it's important because a lot of people, when purchasing a home, they do have access to those funds. You do get penalized, but a lot of young people, and even people who have been in their industry for a long time and have a very well-built 401k, you plan to use those funds, and they do get penalized. However, those funds are available to you guys. So we do also like to use those as reserves, even if you plan on not using those, because it can help strengthen your file in most cases as well.
Okay, got it. Do you have a tip for our viewers on how they can stay organized, maybe before talking to you or maybe during the process?
I would say having your financials in place. In one place, if you can have a folder where you keep all of your pay stubs, keep all your W-2s, keep your bank statements. That way it's handy. It'll take that overwhelming feeling up once you're getting pre-approved, because you all have it in one place. You send it, and it helps with the pre-approval process as well, because once we have all the items, the pre-approval process is super smooth. We're just reviewing everything. It moves a lot quicker for you guys. I know you guys are excited to get pre-approved, and you guys want the process to be quick. However, this is a big purchase, so you've got to keep that in mind. And when you're talking high numbers like that, it is going to take a little bit of time. But if you're prepared, if you have everything in one place, it's going to make everything flow so much smoother.
That is correct. Speaking of process, yeah, it is a process. A lot of times people, they find the right house and they want to get into it the following week, but there's a process. Paperwork, I got to do my part as a realtor, and then Melody has to do her part. There's people behind us, underwriters, and there's just a whole process. So it takes
3 weeks?
3 weeks to 4 weeks?
Yeah. If you've been pre-approved, pre-qualified, if your profile is amazing, we could even do it in 2. So it depends.
Great. Well, the thing is to be ready.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, this is the end of our first podcast. I really do appreciate everything. I appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate Melody coming by. Thank you, Melody. And if you need anything, if you are shopping around in DFW for a new home, you can give me a call, 214-640-0035. And I can also connect you with Melody. Give us your information, Melody.
I'm Melody. I can be reached at 214-400-8440, and we're happy to help you.
Yes. Thank you so much. We'll be working together as a team. Anything you need, feel free to call us. Thank you.